Well, thanks for joining us on The Junk Connoisseurs. You're here with Alan and Alex. All right, what's been going on with you? Anything fun in the cheese bag world?
This cheese bag's tired, as per usual.
Okay.
Got back from vacation, went to a lovely town on Lake Michigan in Wisconsin. Sat on the beach, got a little bit of a tan. Went to Chicago for a couple days. Had fun. Didn't do anything really automotive related. I almost mutinied when I found out I was half an hour from Oshkosh and the aviation museum up there, but I could not get away to go see it, so I'm just gonna leave sometime, drive 12 hours, and be like, well, bye.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I'm sure
it's neat. I haven't been in probably 15 or 20 years, but it is. Yeah. I could spend a week there.
Yes.
So yeah.
So speaking of cool aircraft, did you see? I saw an article. I saw a headline for an article that there was a World War II bomber of some sort that was in our area.
There was apparently a B-29 flying over. Okay. I missed it, but I read about it, that the Wings Over Whiteman Air Show, which is about an hour and a half west of here.
In a car.
Yes, via car. By B-29, it's probably more like 20 minutes, but...
Or it could be 3 hours. I don't know.
Well, it does remind me, several years ago, I was in the garage and was just tinkering with something at my workbench, and I heard a plane, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's a radial. No, that's multiple radials. And I walked outside and saw a B-17 go over at 500 feet, and It's like, I should be at the air show. What am I doing? So, yeah.
So you mentioned that what you just described happened to me yesterday. I was in the house and there was stuff going on. It was not quiet in the house, but something caught my ear from the living room, and I said, same thing as you. I think that could be a World War II plane with a bunch of radial engines on it. And I jumped up, ran outside, and it was that B-29
Neat.
that was nearby. And my daughter was in the house. I said, "Come listen, come look, come listen." And it was a little ways off. And she's like, "Oh," I said, "You can't really see much from here, but listen." And I just was like, "That's a glorious sound." She didn't really understand, but she appreciated that was, to me, was a very heavenly sound of, I think it's I don't know what the cylinder count on the radials or the horsepower, but man, they were cool.
If I remember right, the B-29 used 2850, which is 28 cylinders on each engine. So that would be, math, 112 big jugs at once. They're loud. I'd like to see a B-29. My grandfather was a radio operator in World War II. He washed out of pilot training and was pretty morose about it. And they said, we got a consolation prize. So he flew from the Marshall Islands in the last year of the war against Japan. Well, yeah.
Well, I had a grandfather in a B-17.
Other continent.
Yep. And so to further the B-29 sighting yesterday, today I was inside this evening and I was like, there is another, or that same airplane flying over, and this time it was right over our property at, a couple thousand feet. And I went out and saw it much closer up, and again, glorious noises.
They fund it by offering rides. They are more expensive than you want to think, because I saw they were around and I'm like, oh, that could be an interesting splurge. And I looked it up and I'm like, oh no, it's $600 for a half-hour ride. You don't even get a check bag or a beverage. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to do it, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to Radial Engine Bomber Aircraft from World War II with the Junk Connoisseurs. All right. So, transitioning into what we really do here.
What you're all here for.
What we're here for. I've picked out a topic tonight.
Oh, boy.
Wasn't originally my night to pick out a topic, so this one might be, I don't think it's going to be too out of the ordinary, but yeah. I will give you the first kind of throwaway hint, and that's that it hits all three legs of Alex's triad of automotive desirability.
I see. Could it be ordered without any of those legs?
It certainly could.
It could be optioned with no.
Potentially. It could not be optioned front-wheel drive.
Right. Generally,
it
that's
was
set,
only it was only rear-wheel drive.
But you could get a 6 or 2 pedals.
You could get automatic transmissions. You could get several different varieties of engines. You could not get a 3-cylinder. You could not get a flat or horizontal type engine.
Multiple radials?
Radials were not an option.
Heinous.
And it was literally on my list. Not just because we were talking about that. Yeah.
On the Junk Connoisseurs Triangle of Sadness, how many legs are we looking at?
All right. Was Lotus involved? And I do not believe that Lotus had any involvement in this.
Any Iron Dukery?
The Iron Duke was not available in this one. And I don't remember what the other thing is. I don't think it exists. So
you wouldn't know even if
I wouldn't know.
So Chrysler didn't do it first. So far as you're going to be pissed if I find out if I come up with something like
I'll just deny.
You always say you'll edit it out, and then you never edit it out.
I gotta say, when I say I'm going to edit something out, there's about a 50%. Probably the majority of the time I do not edit it out.
I think it hangs most of the time.
needs to stay in. So I just need to stop saying that.
Okay. More questions. What do we got here? I
don't think it was ever named after a fish.
Or a bird?
No. I can't. Sorry. Negative. There was a bird involved.
A bird was involved.
So I haven't chosen a singular model.
Okay.
I've chosen a platform.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. No fish. Certainly many other species of animal were used in the naming of the models on this platform.
Is this the General Motors intermediate platform, i.e. Chevelle, Skylark, Cutlass, what have you?
It is not.
Okay, I'm not sure what is that the A body?
That's the A.
That's the A
G.
for GM.
Yeah,
early
for the 70s,
yeah.
the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s was the A body, and then it morphed into what became the G body, but the intermediate, you're right. Mid-size GM. No, it was not the GM mid-size platform or a GM mid-size platform.
Is it a General Motors platform?
It is not.
Oh, okay. Intriguing.
I'll give you another throwaway. It was a domestic platform.
So it's a Ford.
Yes. Yeah, you got me. It is a Ford.
So Alex has not graduated to start reading about holes in reality yet. Okay, bird involved.
And I'll say that again. It wasn't my topic to pick out originally, so I went with something that's pretty on brand for me and have a lot of experience with. There were some feline naming rights involved, equine. Trying to think what else. Random nondescript things that aren't animals.
Is the platform itself named after a canine?
Yes.
Okay.
Or canid, I don't know. Yeah.
So we're talking about the Fox platform.
We are.
Okay.
We're talking about the Ford Fox platform. Many people know only for the Fox Mustang, but as we get into it, we'll realize that there was a lot more to it than that. And I know you don't think that, but I know that's a pretty common misconception.
I'm thinking of the different nameplates. I saw a Fox Granada the other day that I didn't. A listener was trying to trade one for a set of wheels, and wish I had some wheels to trade him because it was pretty bitchin'.
Yep.
Saw LTD. I mean, they had that the Thunder Turd that you owned for a while was on the Fox platform. The better looking Thunderbirds were on the Fox platform.
Yes.
What am I missing? I mean,
well, we'll get there.
Yeah,
I'll tell you about it here in just a minute. But in 1978, Ford launched the Fox platform that started the first to launch were the Ford Fairmont and Mercury Zephyr. But this platform had been in development since late 1973. and it was developed and intended to replace both the compact, I've got in quotes here, Maverick body style, the Maverick, and what was the Mercury version of the Maverick?
I believe the Mercury was a Comet.
Comet, yeah.
If I remember right.
The Mercury and Comet. And the subcompact, again in quotes, Pinto and Mustang 2, which would have been the Bobcat, would have been the Mercury version of the Pinto, I remember now.
Did Mercury get a Mustang 2
derivative?
I don't think they did.
Not that I'm aware of. Did they have?
I don't think they did for that, because they continued to build the Cougar, but it was big.
Okay.
Like during the Mustang, like in the first generation Mustang, the Cougar was the Mercury model, and it kind of diverged. And then the Cougar got bigger, and the Mustang got smaller, because the Cougar was always more the personal luxury, and the Mustang was performance-ish.
That's right. Well,
yeah.
So it was a front-engine, rear-drive platform. Had McPherson strut front suspension and coil spring and live axle rear suspension, and it was on a unibody style, which was not really new to what both of the things that we're replacing were also unibody style platforms, but that was kind of the trend at the time, and this was kind of a downsizing of a few of the models that were on it, and it wasn't really a downsizing for the Pinto or the Mustang. Well, there was no Pinto.
About the same size, I think, for the...
Yeah, the Mustang was built on the Pinto, and it was slightly larger, and I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
We'd probably have to reference our earlier episode about the Pinto. Models available on this platform. I've dug up a smattering, and I would not be surprised at all if I've missed a couple on here. Ford had the Fairmont, the Thunderbird, the Mustang, the LTD, and the Granada. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm forgetting something there. Mercury had the Zephyr, the Capri, the Marquis, and the Cougar. Not the Grand Marquis, mind you.
Right, there was
the
actually...
lesser Marquis.
Which I think was a Granada, maybe? I don't remember. They played automotive nameplate.
Yes,
like they moved so much stuff around.
There was a lot of shuffling of models during this time by Ford, and they really utilized this platform in a way that GM did with the whatever the Cavalier
J-body.
Yeah, the J-body was. Lincoln had. I was a little confused on this myself. They had a Continental and Continental Mark 7, but there was a little confusion for me on the naming convention in the Lincolns.
Yeah, they changed the convention at some point in the 80s because they weren't a Continental, they were a Mark 7, and then they were a Continental. But yeah, they were a grown-up. Yeah, and then they had submodels of that. So at one point, the LSC was actually its own model, I think.
Right.
And then they had the Bill Blass edition with all digital instruments and fancy leather. And yeah, Ford basically had two vehicles in the 80s, and they just shuffled styling and nameplates around. So you can listen to our earlier episode. I think, oh God, did we do a Panther episode?
Yes, we did. That was
I have
pretty
the vaguest
early
memory.
one.
I don't know why I can't seem to remember any details about it. I just remember needling somebody, but I don't. Anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, they had in this time frame they had the full size Panther platform, which was a body on frame, and the Crown Victoria and Grand Marquis had probably some of the Lincoln models that I don't recall, but they had what else? They had trucks. They had.
I mean, until they introduced the Taurus, which was like 86.
The Tempo and the Taurus. I guess they had the Escort.
Oh, they did have the Escort, which was, So there was your compact. All the mid-sizes and sporty stuff was on the Fox, and all the full-size was on the Panther. And they squeezed all the juice there was to squeeze out of both of those platforms. My goodness.
And so with this, we can kind of go any direction we want to go. There were a lot of models available. I know a lot of folks are familiar with the Mustang. That's what I was most familiar with originally. I have had several of these over the years, and one of my early automotive projects was an early Fox body Mustang hatchback 4-cylinder, given to me by a cousin because it didn't run when parked. So I I got to learn about the Fox Body Mustang, and I developed quite a fondness for them. They're rather easy to work on. Yeah. Kind of like Legos when you get to looking at them. Let's talk about the engines that were available in the various models on this platform. They had 4 cylinders originally, which was a 2.3 that started at 88 horsepower. That was a 2.3 Pinto engine. They very quickly developed a 2.3 turbo, which was a carbureted turbo that made about 132 horsepower. They only kept that up until about 81. And then they brought it back in 83 as the fuel-injected turbocharged 4-cylinder 2.3 that we have talked about a time or two in the past, notably in the Merkur XR4 Ti. That was used in a few different models. They had an inline 6 200 cubic inch
3.3.
Yeah, 3.3. Just carbureted. This was a holdover from the Granada and the Mustang and the Falcon. Yes.
And going back to what, 59 or
the,
60 probably?
The small straight 6 that Ford made. I mean, of the straight 6s that Ford made, they had this family, the small one, the 200, 140, 200, up to about 250, I think, and some of the Granadas. And they had the large straight 6, which was not available in these cars, which is the 4.9 liter or 300 cubic inch straight 6 Ford engine that was used in a lot of trucks
and vans for the most part. Yeah.
And there was another straight 6 available in this.
Oh, can I guess?
Uh-huh.
That would be the BMW turbo diesel that they put in like 9 Lincolns in 83 and 84.
You are correct. And I had kind of known that, but forgotten about it until I started looking into this. And this was a really easy one to prepare for, and why I chose it on short notice, because there's just so many facts that we could talk about and weird stuff. This is one of them, a 2.4 liter BMW turbo diesel engine that I don't think was very well received in the grand scheme of things.
It was kind of on the tail end of when everybody thought diesels were the next big thing. And I think it was sort of damaged by the reputation of the people were starting to figure out the GM diesels were falling apart.
Right.
And nobody wanted a diesel unless it had a Mercedes logo on it. I think it was perfectly cromulent, maybe a little underpowered, but it was like 1983 and everything was underpowered. So
and I forget, it was in that early half of the 80s, and it was like 2 model years they offered it. I don't remember precisely what years they were, but I imagine they line up well with the Oldsmobile, the GM 5.7 diesel, which really turned out to be a fiasco. And I personally give that engine credit with setting diesel ownership in the U.S. back about 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a mess.
Well, you go to Europe, and a solid, especially in the 80s and 90s, a solid third to a half of the small car engines were diesel of some kind. But the problem there was diesels without the diesel exhaust fluid that all diesels have now, without injecting that into the exhaust. You get a lot of particularly nasty emissions that caused acid rain. And that was a big part of the reason diesels were kind of disfavored for a long time then in like the 90s and aughts in Europe. And here we just never liked them because they're loud, they're smelly, diesel fuel's expensive. And, all things considered, gas engines are more fun.
We love diesel trucks, though.
Oh, they're great in trucks.
But, not cars. So those were the 4-cylinder and straight 6 offerings. There was also V6. For the first year or so, there was a 2.8 liter Cologne V6, which was a direct carryover from the Mustang 2. I think the Pinto's got a V6.
Oh, I'm not sure they ever did.
And the Capri.
The Capri and the Mustang 2 did. And then you could get that in a Fairmont?
Not in a Fairmont, I don't think.
Okay.
I don't recall that being available in a Fairmont.
I didn't know you could get the Cologne in a Fox platform.
I'm not a big fan of V6s, as you know, so I just don't know that much about what they were available in. We're getting close to Dodge territory on that stuff.
Hey.
As far as me not being able to see
let's not
it.
compare Dodges to the worst possible configuration of an engine. Okay.
I just mean as far as my awareness of
Right.
them. There's an engine in there somewhere, I'm pretty sure. And then that was eventually replaced by the 3.8 Essex platform, or the 3.8 Essex engine family was kind of the more popular V6 that ultimately kind of displaced the straight sixes in these cars. And the V8 options that were also available were a 255 cubic inch V8 available, I believe, in 1980 and 81. That was the only V8 available. In 1979, and then from 82 on, there was the venerable 5-liter or 302 cubic inch Ford V8 engine that started back in the Falcon and Mustang days. So there were a lot of engine options. I believe that's all of them that I can recall. Are you remembering more?
Depends. Where do we draw the line on the Fox platform?
Well, okay, so that's an interesting point. I meant to mention that earlier. The Fox platform, until I started looking into this a little bit, I was thinking 1979 to 1993. I was thinking 1978 with the with the introduction of the Fairmont until 1993 at the end of the Aero-styled Fox body Mustang. However, it seems that in retrospect, the SN95 often gets lumped in. So the SN95 was the 94 to 2004 Mustangs was all it was, I believe.
Yeah, that was they were only using it for the Mustangs.
They were only using it for the Mustang.
And it was evolutionary. I
Yes.
mean, they didn't consider it a clean sheet redesign,
Right.
like you did when you got to the I can't even, S190. The '05 Mustang was a clean sheet.
Okay.
But the '94 was a pretty significant redesign, but it was.
But you can still tell
yeah,
it was a Fox body derivative.
because you can take
so-
all the good stuff off a '94 or later Mustang and bolt it directly onto a Fox body from earlier, like you have.
Yes, and I've always kind of considered them the next generation, but I think for the purposes of this conversation, we can kind of take it as we want to. We can include what we want and exclude what we want. So that being said, what other engines are you thinking of that
I
were
think at
available?
the very least, then you get the Ford mod motor,
Yes.
the 4.6 and a couple of 5.4s that crept out in high-end Cobra cars in the early aughts. But the single overhead cam Ford 4.6 V8, and they still used the 3.8 Mustang, the 3.8 SX on up to 04, I think, as the base motor.
Yeah.
So that doesn't add anything. But even still, we're talking about a lot of different stuff here.
Yeah. It was a very versatile platform.
was.
The article on Wikipedia that I read gave credit to the variety of engines being available to fit. They gave credit to the McPherson strut design, which allowed for a wider engine bay. But it was also a kind of a long engine bay because a straight six would fit in there. And as we've commented before while looking at my Fox body projects, that engine bay just swallows a small block Windsor Ford 302 or whatever. It really fits in there nicely. So,
and it's a testament to how ungainly and giant the mod motors are that they
Right.
barely fit.
Right, yes.
And I think that they maybe had to. I think that may have been one of the things the SN95 did was make the engine bay a little wider.
Maybe.
Because they used the Windsor for the first couple of years, but then I think the plan was always to go to the overhead cam engines, and they are ginormous.
they're big.
Yeah.
I agree. They're big. Transmissions available that I'm aware of. Well, actually, I started doing this and then I petered out, and you'll think this is funny. I only listed the manual transmissions.
Of course, the ones that matter. But they were available with 3, 4, 5, or 6 speeds.
Yes.
Most of them being 4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah, they had the original, and I don't remember what even automatic transmission. The 3-speed non-overdrive transmissions were they had a C in front of them. That doesn't matter much more than that to me. The 4-speed, the SROD, and I forget if that's single rail overdrive or side rail.
Single rail overdrive, I believe.
Single rail. And then the Borg Warner T5. Borg Warner has changed hands, or that transmission design has changed ownership over the years. But anyway, the T5 5-speed transmission was a very popular one behind particularly the V8s. It was also available behind the 4 cylinders in both turbocharged and non-turbocharged applications. There were 4 wheelbases on this platform, ranging from 100.5 inches to 108.5 inches to accommodate all the different body styles. So we had the compact, I guess you would say, Mustang, and then we had there were some of the Thunderbirds that were a little bit longer, and the Granadas.
They were a little bigger, and I think Thunderbirds started just a little bigger than the Mustang, and by the time you got into like the 86 and 87 Thunderbirds, they were starting to get quite a bit bigger. And
we had compact cars, we had 4 doors, we had 2 doors, we had station wagons, convertibles, of course. So it was an interesting platform, and from the sounds of it, it was developed to be very versatile.
I think that was the whole idea. Yeah.
Some of these special versions of this that are notable, and ones that we could talk about at length. I haven't prepared a lot to them, but the perhaps most iconic, at least one of the ones that's most iconic to me, would be the Mustang SVO, available from 1984 to 1986. This was Ford's attempt to make a Euro-styled car early on, and they gave it kind of some Euro styling with the bumper and the ultimately kind of flush-mounted aerodynamic headlights, and the cool spoiler on the back, and the little offset asymmetrical hood scoop, and the 175 horsepower 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, intercooled. They started with 175 horsepower. They added a few horsepower to it over the 3 years that it was in production. It came with 16-inch 5-lug wheels, had disc brakes, mentioned the cool spoiler. It was a pretty neat deal, and really a hot rod at the time. I think it was probably the car to beat.
They were no faster than a GT in a straight line, but they were roughly as fast, and they handled better and had much better brakes.
Yeah, I forget. I think they came with Coney shocks, maybe?
I think so. I mean, the biggest thing that gets people with the Fox body is the stock suspension geometry is a little wonky for track and autocross work. But there are so many aftermarket options.
Right.
And I think we may have hit peak. I think we probably hit peak Fox body probably 5-10 years ago in terms of they were just everywhere. And parts were everywhere. And they're still common, and parts are still common. But I think we may have passed the peak of their availability, and
we're definitely getting to a point where they're becoming, I don't know if rare is the right word. There's still plenty of them out there, but they're not so common as to be just cheap. Go pick one up for cheap money and play with it.
When I was in high school, it was, the kids who had hot rods either had, basically everybody had who was playing with performance either had some kind of Civic or an Integra, or they had a DSM, or they had a 5-liter Mustang. And the 5-liter Mustang resonated with me growing up as a muscle car guy. I mean, but they were everywhere.
Very common in the 90s. I mean, in the 90s they were. Boy, I don't even know what they were. The Fox body Mustang of their time.
They were. They are the exemplar of the idiom. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they were very common, and but the Mustang was common. Everything else was virtually forgotten. Okay, That's not true. That's not everything else was. The Thunderbirds were pretty common, and usually more pedestrian. You didn't see as many people hot rodding the Thunderbirds, though it was a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I almost bought a turbo coupe.
Yeah.
From a guy who lived, local band, the guy I knew from a local band that had one, and I several times talked to him about buying it, but I was, just kind of idly interested, and he was driving it, so he was like, I'll sell it, but I don't really want to, and I'm like, I'll buy it, but I don't really want to, and eventually I never did. I've never owned a Fox body.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I was thinking you probably hadn't.
I think the only Ford product I've owned 2 different Tauruses, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And I think that was what kind of killed the more pedestrian Fox body stuff off, is everything non-performance went to front wheel drive in the mid 80s. And there was probably life left in that platform, but the Taurus and the Tempo and the Topaz and the all kind of took up all the air in that market.
They replaced in the mid 80s a lot of the models that were on the Fox body platform. So the Fairmont, Zephyr, Granada, those kind of things
LTD.
were replaced.
Yeah.
Some of them were shifted to the LTD, went back to a full size platform. The Fairmont and Zephyr, I think, were replaced more or less by the Tempo and Topaz.
I think that was the idea, yeah.
And then which I read while looking at this, that the Tempo and Topaz were a longer wheelbase escort platform, which
vaguely
didn't add up. But I
don't know.
Boy, a Tempo has never garnered a second look from me, so maybe they're identical and I don't even know it.
Even with all the garbage I've driven, and even being able to find the good aspects of a lot of terrible cars that I have owned or worked on for friends or just driven in the short run, I have never had a Tempo or Topaz move the needle for me even a little bit. No. I just look at them and I'm like, that's a car.
That's probably a better execution of the Citation. Fills the same niche.
Sort of, yeah. Same
you
vibe.
from place to place without getting wet or walking.
It's better than the bus, but is it?
I don't want to walk in the rain. I guess I'll take a Tempo.
I mean, people at least won't see me if I'm on the bus. If they see me driving this, it's probably better to be invisible. I'm such a
untintable windows.
Always caring about what people think of me based on what I'm driving. But yeah.
The SVO was quite. It's an iconic vintage Fox body at this point, and the neat thing about them is for a long time they were pretty attainable.
I think they still are staying relatively attainable. They've appreciated, as has everything from that era, but I don't think. Are they that much more expensive than a clean GT?
I wouldn't be surprised if they're not. Probably not. One thing with the SVOs is there's such a collector deal. There's a little what a lot of people want to do with the Mustang now is modify the heck out of it, and a lot of people don't want to do that with an SVO because it was special. And so does it make sense that it would almost limit its value to someone who is wanting to do that?
I mean, maybe a little. Also, I think. Although they were more rare, I think they probably were more likely to land with owners who were going to take care of them. Yeah. Instead of just, some mouth breather who's like, I got 8 cylinders and 5 gears.
No offense to any mouth breather listeners.
I'm a mouth breather.
if you put a 5-liter V8 or, oh goodness, gasp, an LS style GM engine into an SVO, you would probably receive death threats.
Yeah, I think they've got a pretty vocal,
a purist community. Yeah, well, they're neat cars, but they're not the only notable special edition. One really cool one is the SSP, the Special Service Package, which was developed by Ford to supply police departments with a police package car. They came with oil and transmission coolers. Virtually all of them were coupes, a notchback, not a hatchback car. What else did they
Basically
have
just for traffic and patrol.
Yeah, you know, they came with a full size spare, 140 mile an hour speedometer. They were a lightweight, souped up version police pursuit vehicle. They were. They were
basically a stock Mustang GT that was designed to be able to be driven at 100 plus for as long as you needed to drive it.
Yeah,
which is a cool idea.
And they're pretty neat. And when you see those these days, you can see why they're cool. And they I think they went a long way. Just the highway patrol driving those probably made a lot of people want them.
Those have been collectible though,
yes,
for I don't know how long, because they were not very common. And and usually once they were sold out of service, they were not used. Police cars get used hard, and they generally get maintained well, but they are used hard and they idle a lot.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, and police departments tend to get their money's worth out of them. So, but they're neat.
The Thunderbird Turbo Coupe was a fairly common and available package, which was the Thunderbird on the Fox platform, and this would have been so there were more than one body style of Thunderbird available on the Fox platform, and this would have been the 83 and newer
83 to 87
version
88?
that was the Jelly Bean styled, the aerodynamic styled Thunderbird, and they came with the same engine effectively as the SVO, the Mercurex R4 Ti, and they were, I don't know, they seemed relatively easy to come by years back. I'm sure they're not now, but that was another kind of special yet attainable version. What else do we have? The Mercury Capri, I don't think had too many factory options. They had a couple of ones that I can kind of remember, Crimson Cat or something like that.
Night Cat, I think.
Yeah,
which is
they had a couple. But what I remember seeing whenever I was at a very impressionable age and this is not a factory one, was the ASC McLaren versions, which were just, I don't know why they were so cool, but man, they were cool.
They were.
Most of them I saw were white with like orange, I feel like stripes or something like that. But
and you got all of Steve Saline's Mustangs he built.
Yeah, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention, but I know that was a popular upfitter. Or
they were neat, tuner. And they were always collectible even early on. I won't say I almost bought one. I stopped to look at one, but they wanted like $12,000, and this would have been 2003, 2004, okay, and I'm like, this is beyond me, but it's cool.
Yeah,
I did once almost buy a Capri that I kind of still should, cursing myself for turning this away, because it would have been about the same era. I was in college, and it was an 84 or 85, so roller cam but carbureted, 5-liter, 5-speed, bubble back, super clean. Like 80,000 miles taken care of. Nice. And he wanted the lot wanted $3,500 for it. And I stopped and I drove it, and I'm like, this drives nice. And I looked and I'm like, I was test driving, like, does the air blow cold? Did not have air conditioning. And I was like, oh, yeah. That's not, it's the only vehicle I'm going to drive. And it's cool, but man, it gets hot around here, and I'm a wuss. So yeah. I wound up not buying it, and I still kind of kicked myself because it was sweet.
Yeah, that sounds neat. So you were talking about the V8, the high output Ford 5-liter V8 really became a thing in the middle of the run, and by 85 is kind of a sweet year to some folks. It was a roller cam. That was the first year of the roller cam. And it was the last year of the carburetors, and it had a four-barrel Holley style carburetor on it. It was manufactured by Holley, and I've seen various reports on horsepower, 210 horsepower,
200, 210,
and that was a real, I don't know, that's a sweet spot, and I think that because I've now owned two Mustangs that I repowered with an 85 roller cam 4-barrel Mustang 5-liter, and one of them is in my possession right now, and that's the Fairmont wagon that has that engine in it with the 5-speed, and they're fun. They're not OMG fast, but for a factory output, stock rebuilt engine or stock output engine, they're impressive with a good set of gears. And
the Fox body was attainable performance in a time period where attainable performance was kind of hard to come by. And it was really Detroit was really only kind of finding its way back about that time. And, it really was kind of the vanguard of performance coming back that was available without spending an obscene amount of money on a car.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will agree that it's not an economy car, but it's an economy muscle car, or even, where I was really going with that, because I heard some comments by some other podcasters, it's surprisingly capable in a sports car environment, road racing and autocross and that kind of stuff. And like you said, from the factory, they weren't brilliant, but there's a lot of Band-Aids on the aftermarket out there, where for a reasonable amount of money, you can really make them handle well. And I will say, not having had it on a track, my Fox body Mustang handles really well with.
At 8/10, they're great on the street.
Yeah.
It's when you try and really crowd the top of the envelope that you start to really expose the flaws. And you can remedy a lot of it with just newer parts.
Yeah.
Bolting on SN95 stuff.
Right. Yep.
Relatively inexpensive aftermarket fixes for all of it. So yeah.
The geometry on the front McPherson strut style suspension was not brilliant, but it doesn't take much to add a little camber and caster, and they're close enough that aftermarket parts will get you there.
Yep.
The rear, it's pretty simple. It's a 4-link live axle coil sprung suspension. You can do the best you can with that, which it'll get you pretty far. Or there's now 3-link conversions with Panhard bars and that kind of stuff. So there's really an option. The aftermarket really supported these because there were so many. And really, we've got the Mustang to thank for all of that, both the drag racing and the road racing inspired aftermarket parts for both suspension and speed tuning with drivetrain. I think really the Mustang drove that development. But we've got a plethora of other vehicles that those parts bolt right onto. So it's kind of a neat Lego platform. Yeah. Trying to think of what other special editions there. One notable deal, not a special edition, but an option package on these were the TRX handling package, which I know you've mentioned before, which was based around Michelin's TRX tire technology, which was a metric rim size or wheel size versus one of the few things on Earth that has always been and may always be measured in inches. Is the way our tire
even across the pond
goes.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody uses 15, 16, 17, 18-inch tires to this day, which is really surprising.
Yeah.
Because 30% of a tire size designation is in inches. 30% is in millimeters, and 30% is in ratio, an aspect ratio, a percentage. So you got So these were I think the TRX on the Mustangs, and it wasn't just Mustangs. Some of the other body styles had them.
Ford was the only. Oh,
what do you see?
There goes a B29. There it is. Look over the tree line. We'll be back.
Everyone is talking about DNA testing and genealogy services. And of course, there are many stories about surprises found in family trees. Today's episode is brought to you by a very specific genealogy service, and if you're a listener, it might be right for you. Every day, dozens of gearheads wonder to themselves, is it possible that my dad is actually Doug Nash? Well, with 4+3andMe, you can answer that question quickly and easily. Contact us today to find out if your father is the guy you think he is, or if he's really the guy responsible for the controversial Corvette transmission from the 80s. We return to our regularly scheduled podcast after a brief but distant B29 viewing outside our front door of the podcast studio here. All right, where were we? Talking about the TRX package. So you were mentioning
Ford was the big adopter domestically. I know overseas, Ferrari was big on them. I believe Peugeot and Citroën, who were at least Michelin no longer owned them. I'm sorry, but I think the French companies used TRX, and it wasn't a bad design. It was just new. It was 395 millimeters of, a 395 millimeter diameter, about 15.4 inches. But they didn't fit a 15-inch or 16-inch wheel. Nope. And the problem was buying replacement tires, because Michelin was the only supplier of replacement tires, and you can still get them. But holy crispy crap, they are expensive now, and they were expensive then.
I think Coker is who makes them now.
They either make them or distribute them. Yeah. But yeah, they're the only game in town anymore.
Makes sense.
My neighbor had one. Growing up, this was probably 10 years after it was new. He had a 79 pace car Mustang with the Turbo 4 and the neat gold paint with the giant running horse decal down the side.
The Indy pace car,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
And TRX wheels. And it never ran the entire time he owned it. Cool looking, though.
I had a cousin who I infer in retrospect that he was older than me and had a TRX option car because somebody was talking about how expensive the tires were when they would need to be replaced. That was the only thing anybody that wasn't a gearhead knew about that car was, oh my gosh, the tires are $200 a piece to replace, which would be $1,000 today. You know,
they were high dollar.
Yeah. This was in the day of $50 tires. Today, if you find a tire for $200, you're doing all right.
I mean,
they are a little bit
depends.
less than that still.
Yeah,
but that was a big deal, and I think that package also came maybe with some better shock absorbers and a sway
stiffer
bar
springs, maybe.
Like
it was a whole deal, and they handled okay. I mean,
apparently, I don't know. I've never owned one. Nobody wanted them. Those wheels are valueless now. Somebody has made a reproduction in a 16-inch size, and those people enjoy
that makes sense. So you can have the same aesthetics, but you can actually go buy tires for a little while. 16s are kind of thin on the ground now. But
original TRX wheels, I'm pretty sure most people that want to move some, they would probably give them to you. Or I know that I've been offered some in the past. I'm like, I don't have any use for those. I'm not going to buy the tires that go on them.
Need a hose reel or something like
exactly.
that.
I mean, they look neat, but they're neat. They're not my favorite style of wheel ever. They're very distinctive. They are. Of a tri-bar design. Yeah, they were. That was a neat. Just one part of it. You mentioned the Indy pace car. Those were pretty neat. And the early Fox Mustangs, they got a little wild with their Indy pace car, and their Cobra packages had some pretty wild graphics and that kind of stuff. And they also had a very distinctive front fascia that looked really cool. And I'm just really bouncing around now. In 87, the Fox body Mustang went to the Aero style, and they pretty much stayed the same body style. There were a few iterations and facelifts up from 79 until 87, but in 87 they went to that Aero style with the, what do you call it, sealed beam headlights, Aero style headlights.
That was something that was, for the longest time, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration mandated sealed beam headlights.
So you had sealed beam are the old ones,
sealed beam's
right?
the old style. So you had rectangle or circle.
Yep.
And then they started allowing the aerodynamic headlights. And I do remember when I was a kid, I would read my grandfather's subscription to Consumer Reports, and I remember Consumer Reports complaining about, oh gosh, these headlights are $190 a piece. Like, yeah, you don't replace the headlight, but what happens when we run into somebody? Consumer Reports just always knows how to get in the way of a good time. But the thing was, as cars got more and more aerodynamic, they got better mileage too.
Yep.
Yeah,
so they replaced the sealed beam headlights with the
composite,
composite style, is that what we call it? And that was, I think, I didn't dig too deep into it, but part of the SVO, the early one had a sealed beam headlight because DOT had not approved the composite for that at that point. So I think then in 85 and 86 they had more of an Aero style composite headlight, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they just changed the design so that the seal
The
beam fit
85
in
had the 4 square ones.
better. Okay.
Because it was I think
Okay.
the 86 maybe 85 and
Yeah,
86
somewhere
were both
in there
4
they,
eyes.
they
Yeah.
made a change, and
Yeah.
somebody will correct us, I'm sure. One notable, not a Ford production vehicle, but I read that it was commissioned by Ford, was the Durango, which is the Ute, the sport truck version of the Fairmont. They made about 200
Oh yeah,
of.
I think I've seen one of those.
The
in
National
magazine.
Coach Corporation. I've seen one in person, and it was a project in the raw, but
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of neat. They basically took Fairmont Futura, which
Mm-hmm.
had kind of that sporty roof line, and
Squared off back glass.
Yeah,
and they took
well,
the squared off part.
they took the it was so the Futura was the slightly more sporty style roof line, and they took the halo that goes over the top, and that was the back of the cab, and then they cut away the back part of the roof and made a Ranchero out of it. I don't know why they called it a Durango instead of a Ranchero. Seems like a missed
Ford
opportunity.
probably said that's our intellectual property, and but
So
you can produce this, but find a new name.
Good point. I saw somebody said that it was Ford commissioned, but I don't know that I've
kinda
ever.
doubt it.
I kind of doubt that too. So that's probably why. And so when you talk about the Dodge Durango someday, we'll say no. Somebody did it first with a Ford.
Okay. Well,
Not really.
We'll never have to talk about the Dodge Durango.
You're not going to bring that one up.
I mean, they're okay. I mean,
Nothing wrong with them. Yeah. What else do we want to talk about on the Ford Fox platform? I didn't prepare anything else. I was like,
should we jump to the would you own it? Well,
yeah. I mean, we can. Or is there any other?
Did they ever race these? Were they ever used in motorsports?
Think so.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
they
And
don't
I
really lend
can't
themselves to
imagine that
motorsports
Hot Wheels
contests.
or Matchbox would have ever made one. I don't.
Yeah.
That's probably not a thing.
Yeah.
What else? I was trying to think of any other fun little stuff about them. I don't know.
Appearances in TV and movies. That'd be a
Oh
fun
my
one to think
gosh.
about. I mean, there were a fair few, but I can't think of
Spies
any.
Like Us, Ghostbusters. They're just everywhere. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, they're in the background of a lot.
They're
of
in the
stuff, but
background
yeah.
of any movie with a street scene in the 80s.
Yeah.
They couldn't not have these in
especially. I mean, Fairmonts and Zephyrs, which were for a few years.
Mindhunter, they were driving a Fairmont or Fairmont derivative.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
I have not.
That's a Netflix
Yeah.
series, I think. But that one had a Fairmont. What else? There are plenty of these. If you look at period movies from the 80s, you'll see a lot of them. I don't know if any of them featured one very heavily, movie-wise. Maybe when I'm thinking Fairmonts now, but if we start thinking about Mustangs, there might be.
I can't. I mean, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but they've got to be in various things.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll do a revisit on that whenever some listeners smack us and say, "What about this?" Yeah. So let's move on. Alan, would you own one?
I nearly have a couple times now that I think about it, because I've, like I already said, I almost bought that Capri. I almost. Oh, there was another. Some from a Fox derivative I almost bought. I would, and I think the one the Turbo Coupe that I almost bought. I think what I would want is the Mark 7. I think that would be a really fun daily driver that would still be kind of performance oriented. The Lincoln,
The LSC.
the LSC, yeah. Or even one of the lesser derivatives, but then you got the lesser one's got less power.
Okay.
The LSC was generally punching right along with the Mustang GT. So, 200, 210, 225 as they went. And then late 80s, the Mark 7 and the Thunderbird split off onto a new platform that was not a Fox derivative and got bigger and heavier and more luxurious. MN12, yeah. I want to say there's some Fox DNA in there, but it's mostly its own thing. And they're neat, but they're not, they're heavy,
That platform is notable for the Super Coupe. Okay, yeah, That's what I was thinking.
Well, who says you can't polish a turd? I'm sorry, I hate the SX V6 just
Really?
because helping my friend change a water pump in the mall parking lot over 2 very hot days in like 2002. And we were taking this water pump off, and I swear to God, at one point I had to use a 14 millimeter, a 12 millimeter, and a 1/2 inch socket on the same part. And there is no earthly reason, one, that it should have SAE and metric on the same part, much less that there should be 3 different nuts within 2 millimeters diameter of one another. And I believe I chucked something across the mall parking lot and wandered off for a while, and my friend was very confused why I was so angry. But yeah.
And you don't like them. I'm so surprised. You had to change a water pump in a hot parking lot.
Yeah. It wasn't even that bad. It was good company, a friend of mine. But yeah, it was.
So you're not a fan of the
not a
S6
fan. Not a fan. Like the Windsor, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho's, yeah, I would buy an LSC. The right Mustang wandering into my life would be something I would really like. I do think, foreshadowing, we don't have to ask Alex if he would buy them because he's already bought them all.
No, I'm not really very interested.
I am curious, how many drivable Fox bodies do you own right now? Because it's
3.
at least 3.
Yeah.
And then probably 3 more parts cars?
I don't have any parts cars on hand right now.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a shame, but probably kind of a good thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've owned several more of these over the years. 3 come to the mind real fast. But I'm sure there were others. But yeah. No, I'm not interested in these and probably wouldn't own one if I was given the opportunity.
Yeah.
No.
Won't spend actual money on it. No, it's just not your jam. Yeah, I get it.
I recently did sell a project because I realized I don't really... Well, another Fox body came along and replaced it. I bought that Capri, which was an 86 Capri 4-cylinder car. Coincidentally, also did not have air conditioning from the factory. And in this day and age, that's kind of odd to us, isn't it?
It is,
you can get something without AC.
Yeah.
But I had that for a little while and had a friend who was interested in purchasing it, so I went ahead and sold it because the blue Futura, the Fairmont Futura, had come along, and I owned that now, and it was a running driving, albeit project, but mostly just a running driving car. And I thought, well, I'm probably not going to get to this project anytime soon, so I can.
You're stretching the definition of recently there, because I'm pretty sure you've had that for Futura for 3 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, on a geologic scale, it's pretty recent, but yeah.
The other day.
Yeah. Sometime before now.
And would I own more? You betcha. There are plenty that I would like to own. I really think the Fairmonts are cool. If I got a chance to get a 2-door
Post
regular, 2-door sedan, regular Fairmont, I would love to have one. That's what I've been looking for all my life. But what came along at this point was first a wagon, which I also think is really cool, and then a Futura, which has the different roof line, which I'm not as big a fan of. But again, beggars can't be choosers. It's still a cool little car. So, what else would I like to have? I've never had one of the fuel injected Mustangs.
Really?
So, a good fuel-injected 5-speed Mustang would be pretty cool. If a coupe came along, that'd be really neat. A notchback, I mean, as opposed to hatchback. I never liked when I was young, I never liked the looks of the notchback. I always preferred the hatchback, and I think still in my mind it's a little bit better looking body style, but I want a notchback because they're a little bit more rigid, potentially a little bit lighter.
They're maybe 50 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
But they're definitely more rigid because there's not a big hole in the back.
Right. Yeah. And I did have a notchback. At one point in my life, I bought a project Mustang out of a field that was a notchback, and I was going to build it into a road racing car. But then family started happening, and I was not going to be doing that sort of both activity or expenditure in the near future. So I went ahead and abandoned that project.
In another field.
Something like that. So I'm a fan of this, and that's why I chose it tonight, because something I already knew a little bit about and would be able to talk about without a whole lot of preparation. But anything else going on we should talk about before wrapping this up?
I got nothing.
Got nothing. Okay. Any good movies or songs that you've heard recently we should tell these cheese bags to listen to?
That are car related?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Can't think of anything.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then thanks for listening. Please do share this with your friends. We've had some folks doing that recently. We really appreciate it. Share us on social media. You can message us and give us comments, feedback, or ideas for future subjects for this at you can email us at junkconisr@gmail.com, or you can find us at our Facebook page, which is Junk Connoisseurs. And outside of that, all I have to say is stay fresh, cheese bags.